Today on the Social Corner.
Because if you haven't had that fatherly figure growing up, then you automatically feel like you need to seek that in a man. Got the opportunity, danced at the conference, and the conference changed my life. And it's the first time I'd really danced in the presence of God. I always thought an addict would be very visible. You're definitely addicted to something else before you're addicted to the substance.
Hello and welcome to the Social Corner with me, Daina Anderson and Punzi. My guest today is as spirited as she is passionate. She's a multi-award-winning creative entrepreneur, dancer, choreographer and author. Her debut book, Dear Future Self, is an honest and transparent love letter to women of any age. And I'm so pleased she's joining me today to talk about the woman behind it all. Romanah Malcolm, welcome to the Social Corner.
Thank you for having me.
So, we've been trying to arrange this for a while.
Yeah,
so I feel
we got there in the end.
I know, I feel quite honoured that you've managed to come today. When I think about you, I think about my younger self, and I think about, it's not a comparison, but you think, you can't help but look to the next generation and see how they're doing it, if you know what I mean. And the word that I couldn't get away from with you was bold.
Yeah.
Would you describe yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's where the Eloquent came from, being bold and courageous and passionate. So yeah, 100%.
Where did that come from?
Where did that come from? Good question. I think I've always been like that. Even from young, I've always been really bold, leader, just fearless. But I remember my mum saying to me when I was in secondary school, if you're going to lead for a good purpose or forget it. And I was kind of just like, what's she mean? Just everyone kind of just follows what I was doing. At that time, I was just that person in class that would just be disruptive and everyone would follow what Marn's doing. And that has resonated with me ever since, because when I stepped into leadership properly and started to impact lives and change for the good, I was like, oh, okay, so this is what she meant by use it properly.
The day that we live in, I should say, everybody, we talk about leadership, and I suppose the word that's kind of always attached to that at the moment is influence, influencers. And you see social media, so many things playing a part in, I suppose, how young people think. Yeah. Growing up, how, exposed, how influenced were you by all the narratives that are around? Because you've kind of grown up in that social media era.
Do you know what's funny? When I was growing up, it was MySpace, and MySpace didn't really have much. It was MySpace, then it moved to MSN Messenger. So there wasn't really bold social media platforms with influencers that you could be like, oh wow. It was more so just music artists and kind of music I was listening to. But now I feel for our generation, because they've got all of these new platforms to keep up with, new pressures, and I feel like I have to stay up to date with what's going on to remain relatable. So when there's a new platform out, I'm like, what's the platform? Because I'm jumping on, even if it's under a fake name, just so that I can see what's going on to stay in tune with this generation, I guess.
I want to talk about young Romanah. Yeah. This term now, young people. Yeah. I think to myself, okay, you look at that checklist, it's I think it was 15 to 21 or something like that. There's different boxes that you can check, and you're still within that 20s age bracket. Do you feel like a young person? When you say that word, do you consider yourself, because you seem so mature and so...
I feel like the goalpost is continually moving for what a young person is. So before it was 21, now it's 25, now it's 30. And I'm like, how long am I going to be young for? Not that I'm trying to speed up the years, but it just feels like the goalpost is always moving. Yeah. But I don't mind it. I like having that young, fresh mind and doing new things in my generation, kind of trailblazing a new path. I don't mind it. However, it gets tiring when there's not enough people my age of the same mindset, if that makes sense. It gets lonely.
Tell me a bit more about that. What do you mean?
Like, so I just feel like, okay, so in my friendship circle or my generation, I've been the first to do lots of things. And whilst that looks great, it feels isolating at times. Like, okay, you know, you started a business at 17. Well, let's celebrate. Well, not really, because when I was at home building a website, my friends were in clubs. And it was like, why are you not coming out? Why are you not? You're boring, you're that. And really, you've got this bigger vision that you want to play out, battling with that. So I've just had to find that maybe my friends just have to be 10 years older than me, and that's all right.
Yeah, the more mature crowd.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you growing up then as a child. Tell me, what were you like?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I feel like I've always been rude. I've always been cheeky. Like, my mum has said to me from day one, I had to rein you in because you was a handful. Like, you've always been a lot. But as a child, I think I was always passionate about dance. Right. Always passionate about dance. Dance was like a lifeline. It's kept me going through all periods of my life, both great and bad.
How old were you when you first started dancing?
Probably about 5. Yeah.
And was it that you'd seen it somewhere, or you just...
Do you know, my mum put me into a dance class, and she put me into a few actually, and I didn't like any. So she put me in a few, and I think she put me in ballet, and I was like, no, I don't like it. She put me in gymnastics, dropped out of that. So she was continually trying to find somewhere where I would just settle. And then I remember we moved to Albury, and my dad had found this new dance class for me, and he's like, I think this is going to be the one, it's going to be great. So I was like, yeah, all excited. Finally, I think I found the one. He took me, and I remember walking in and being the only black girl in the room, and I was like, okay, are you going to leave me? And he's like...
And you're 5 years old at this point?
I think I was about 7.5. And my dad was like, go on in, you'll be all right. You know, it's a new area, you'll get used to it. And I was like, okay, cool. Bold, confident, went in, and just remember having my confidence completely shattered that session. Like, ridiculously. So my mum picked me up from that class, and I was like, I'm not dancing again. Like, don't drop me back to that place, or I just don't want to dance.
Why? What happened in the session? In
the session, I could just feel that I was the only coloured girl in the room.
So at that young age, because a lot of people say, you know, children aren't aware of that type of stuff, or what you're saying, you were aware.
Very much aware, because I could see. To be fair, I'm lying. I did go back because my mum was like, don't give up that easily, because I don't think at the time I was able to communicate, this is why I'm feeling this way. So she just thought it was me being me, So I was going for a while, and over the periods of weeks that I was there, I could see the favoritism. I could see the, you're here and you get to the back. And I remember doing a show, and my mum came to watch the show and was like, I didn't see you. Like, I've watched 2 hours, I've paid my tickets, and I didn't see you. And it's not down to the fact that I was inexperienced compared to the other dancers. It was just, it was pure favoritism.
Right.
So after that, I think she took me out because she could now see where the lack of confidence was coming from. Why are you not dancing in front of family members at events? Why have you gone into a show? What's happened? And obviously I wasn't able to communicate it, but after her coming to see the show, she was like, how come I haven't seen my child dance? I've been sending you to these classes, what's going on? And after that, I think it was time to move, and she took me out, and we found a place where I felt comfortable and ended up thriving in dance. But it was hard to find that place initially. Yeah.
When you talk about feeling comfortable, and I suppose being settled in your surroundings, what were some of the factors or the elements that did that for you, that made you feel comfortable?
I think it's definitely the environment, how welcomed you are in an environment, and how much you can relate to the environment as well. I think it's really important. And even though my mum had moved me to this new dance school and I felt a sense of being comfortable, I wasn't all the way comfortable until I launched Eloquent, and was like, every feeling that I felt as a young black dancer, I'm going to make sure that they don't feel here. So it was kind of creating that space for young black performers to just be free and be solid in their identity, if that makes sense. So for example, I would go to dance competitions and be told to straighten my hair, and your hair would have to be straight, which was fine because some dance jobs you have to straighten your hair, that's the brief, do it. But when I would wear my afro out, it would be like I'd get to dance competitions and people would be like funny looks and stuff like that, and I just would feel like, at the time, I remember coming home and crying and saying to my mum, I want to cut my hair off, I want it straight, I want it long. And she was like, it's curly and coil, and that's fine. But I didn't realise that all of these things of not being able to be strong in my identity in an environment was playing big parts to that.
So how was that translating into your behaviour? Not just in dance, but at school and
I think it was more so just lack of confidence and not wanting to wear my hair out naturally. So when I was at secondary school, I don't think I would wear my hair naturally. It would always be in a weave, or it wouldn't even be in braids. Like, it wasn't that era where natural hair was celebrated. Like, when my hair would come out for wash day, I'd be like, no school today, mum. And I'd do everything in my power not to go to school. And she'd be like, you going. But I didn't realise that young girl that was made to feel funny for having an afro at a competition, it then transpired into that, you know, so self-doubt.
Internalized. Okay. Because you run a dance school now. And I don't even think it's right to just call it a dance school. How would you describe it?
Good question. A performing arts and community organisation, but just like a movement. Okay. Like, we're continually evolving and doing great things. So a movement. Definitely a movement.
So in the movement, you have like so many young girls, you know, and I've seen some of them when I first kind of met you, and now see them and they're all big people, got heels on, and all sorts. And their confidence, that's what I notice about them. They have this kind of confidence of an assurity of who they are and their place in the world. And it makes me think, well, what goes on in Eloquent? You know, what is the culture that you've said you want them to feel comfortable, but what's the culture that you're cultivating there?
It's definitely a come as you are culture and embrace what you've got. So if there's a brief for a certain job, like if we're doing a music video and I want everyone to have their hair in a high pony, then that's what it is. But behind the performances and all of the razzmatazz, when you just come with what you've got and let us work with it. So for example, when I was in the industry at a young age, it was, you know, you had to be a certain size, or you couldn't have thick legs because then you wouldn't be able to do split leaps and you'd be heavy, and all of these different factors that would play into the image of a dancer. And I was just like, I'm going to smash all those barriers when I opened my own company. So now we've got dancers of all different shapes and sizes, and I'm like, you better own what you got and don't change it. And I think they're now struggling, like especially our teenage girls who are 12 to 17, battling with their identity, continually like not feeling comfortable in the skin that they're in or the body shape that they've got, and then we're having to unpack it and do more mentoring sessions for them. But
what is I suppose if there was a common factor, what would you say it usually boils down to when you're unpacking it with them?
Social media, all day long.
Social media, nothing else but social media, and what they are thinking is the model for their generation. What they are thinking needs to be on point. Like the typical body shape. I had a girl yesterday that was absolutely in tears because she was like, I'm too skinny. And I was like, in whose book? Who wrote that rule for you? Couldn't tell me. But so-and-so and so-and-so said that, you know, when they look at this and it's all about image, what is the media portraying to these young girls? Why do they think that they need to have thick thighs now is in? Big bottoms are now in. Can I just say, I wish this was like 20 years ago when I was at school. I'd have such a better time. But
trust me.
But it's into a point where people are altering their shape and things like that.
and it's actually frightening. And what I've learned is you can't save everybody. So as much as we've created a culture of be strong in your identity at Eloquent, there are some who just don't catch that.
Yeah.
Even if they've been with us for years.
Because when I think about that, I think, well, there's, I suppose parents can always say, like, school should be teaching them certain things, or, Eloquent should be. But does that have to be nurtured at home as well for 100%. For the stabilisation to
Because when literally I used to beat myself up about it when I used to see young people fall off. I'm like, we're not doing enough, we need to put on more sessions. And I had to come to this realisation that I have these young people for them a maximum time of 3 nights a week, not even 4 days, nights, potentially on a Saturday I've got them for 6 hours, and I'm expecting to do a whole mindset shift in that time. It's got to start at home. And if their parents are not singing from the same sheet now, I'm just like, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. We can't save everybody. We've realised that it definitely starts with the parents, so there's more things that we're offering to them now. Before it was just dance company and community organisation for young people, and now it's everybody, because everybody needs something. So most recently for Father's Day, the team came up with an idea that we're going to have a father and Father's Day dance followed by a father's empowerment session. And I was in the meeting, obviously I'm in these meetings as CEO, but the only one without kids. And I'm like, guys, I don't really see the point in that session. Like, what's that going to do? And everyone's like, no, man, it's necessary. So I kind of let my mom and the team run with the vision. And I just said, okay, I'll attend. Attended the event and was literally in tears, like really moved by what took place in the studio. And it was funny because everyone was like, you was the one that's saying you didn't want to do the event. But seeing dads show up for their young people was insane. And then they created a space afterwards where they got all the kids out of the room and let the dads just talk about fatherhood. And we couldn't get them out of the studio. But people were going in like, guys, 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, we're going to wrap up. Half an hour later, still talking. And I was just like, wow, all this time we've been channeling our energy into these young people, but the parents are crying out for something
they
too.
Need support. Let's speak a bit about fatherhood. Because I've seen you talk about this here and there, about fatherlessness and especially how it affects young girls, young women.
Massively.
What's your, generally, what's your thoughts around that? Do you think that it is if a young girl doesn't have a father, how are some of the ways that you feel it affects them?
I think it definitely plays a part in where they seek validation. Because if you haven't had that fatherly figure growing up, then you automatically feel like you need to seek that in a man or in a partner. And then what I've found with a lot of these young girls is they seek a father figure in their partner. It's like I have to say to my girls a lot of the time, he's not your dad. Like when they're relaying some of the expectations that he should be doing this for me and he should be doing that. And I'm like, that sounds like a dad. That's not a boyfriend. Like you've got it very confused, but they're of that thinking because they haven't had a father. So when this male figure comes along, showing them all this love and attention, they're automatically like, right, now you've got to fill these gaps that have been empty for a long time.
What about your dad? So I've seen you pictures, I've seen like some of your events. Like, how would you describe your relationship with your dad growing up?
Growing up, it was great. Me and my dad were really, really close. I'd even say now I was a proper daddy's girl growing up, but there was a massive shift where he became really absent. And we just, from then, we've just never been the same. And I think even to now, that's why I can relate with these young girls that don't have a father figure and seek love in other places, because I'm like, I've been there, I've seen it play out. So now I think I'm able to speak from a position of being super relatable because of my experience.
What happened during that time?
So at the time, I didn't know what was happening. He was just gone for certain periods of time, and then he would be back, and then he would be gone, and he'd be back. And I think it started when I was about, I'm trying to jog back memory, about 7, 8.
So this is also coinciding with your dance.
Starting the dance.
Okay.
So about 7, 8, weird things started to happen. And at that time, my brother was just born as well, my younger brother. So there was all of these things happening, and I just adjusted to that being normal, that if dad's not here, then that's just normal. I think I was told that he's struggling with things and he's got an issue, a problem. Right. That was probably put in place to protect me. So I was just like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. Just got used to it, to be fair. Got on with my life and had a really supportive mom that was just on point and would easily be able to play both roles. So when it was time to be mom, she was mom. If she needed to jump in and do dad stuff, she would. So I didn't realise the impact it was having on me at the time. And I think I got to about, what age do you take your GCSEs? Is it 15? 15, 16. It was the day before my English GCSE. Came home and I could see that my dad was just acting very, very strange. And my mum wasn't home. And I remember going upstairs just ready to revise because I was just like, I'm not bothered with any dad drama today. And then I remember him saying to me, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, it's important because I've got to revise, got an exam tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, I'm a cocaine addict. And he just kind of like dropped it on me, and it was just me and my dad at home at the time. And I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, been meaning to tell you for a while, but yeah, I'm really struggling with my addiction. And I was so confused. Like, I just remember feeling this kind of like rush and panic. I was angry, mad, like relieved because now I knew what was going on. It was just crazy. So I remember picking up the phone, calling my mum and saying, Mum, Dad's here and he doesn't look well, but he's telling me he's a cocaine addict. What's going on? And she was kind of just like, don't listen to him. I'll be home in a minute and I'll sort it. But I could hear in her voice the shock.
Right.
I could hear the shock that
he told you.
He told me, but didn't tell my mum. He was telling me. So I could hear. I think she was home within about 15 minutes. And it's funny because she used to work far, and she was like back, like, what the hell is going on? So she kind of had to sit me down, and I think at that point there was no more hiding from what was happening because he told me now, and I'm mature enough to see, oh, okay, this makes sense for everything that's been happening. So she kind of just had to let me ride it out, let me handle it and be there to support me, and drop me to school the next day so I could sit my English GCSE exam. Concentrate. I came out of the exam with an A, so I must have been in the zone in the hour, but either side of that hour, I was just trying to piece together what the last 9 years had been and just trying to figure it all out. Very, very, very confusing. But also a sigh of relief because it was like, okay, now I kind of understand what was going on. Not that it was giving any excuse for anything, because I think from that point, I was just like really angry. You've been missing because of that. Are you crazy? Like,
did you know what, when he said that, did you understand what he was saying? Like, no, at 15 years old?
Not at all. So my first thing was, let me search this. What, like, obviously I've heard of drugs in school, taught about it, but what is addiction? Like, proper addict. What the hell? Like, and to be fair, I always thought an addict would be very visible.
Yeah.
So I always thought if something like that's going to happen, I'm going to be able to see it, but I didn't see any signs of it at all. Obviously, in his absence, he'd be doing what he was doing, but anytime he would be around, I wouldn't pick up any of the signs or even think that it would be an addiction. So when he said it, it was like, okay, wow, now I need to kind of... I was doing research on it, and my mom was just like, I don't want you doing any... She was just trying to protect my sanity in all kind of forms, bless her heart. But at that moment, once my last GCSE was finished, I just went crazy.
Looking into it.
Yeah. Looking into it, and also like emotional stability, I just lost it.
Wow.
And just became really challenging.
Just tell me about this challenging.
I think it was me wanting to be anywhere but at home. Because obviously I just found out this is what was happening. At the time, my dad wasn't living in the house, but it was just the thought of having to, thinking about where he is when he's not around. Is he safe? Is he all right? Watching my mum be in pain, but watching my brother be confused,
right,
and go to football, not be picked up all of those things were starting to play into it. And I was just like, I want to be anywhere else but at home. So I would just make sure every weekend I was out. I was just out. After school, go out, not come back. And I think that was putting more pressure on my mum at the time, because it was like, I'm trying to manage how you've just received this information without me having any prior warning. And now I can't. Now I was just going left. But looking back, it was my way of trying to cope, and struggling.
During that time, you know, after your dad told you, were there any further conversations with him about,
I think,
the whole thing?
Yeah, but I think he just wasn't in a space to receive or have those conversations.
Has he ever explained why he told you that way?
No, he hasn't. I don't think he can comprehend the mindset he was in. I honestly think he was high when he told me.
Wow, okay.
Because I could see something was wrong from when I was at home, which is why I was just like, I want to go to my room. I don't even know why you're here anyway. That's just my thoughts. But I could see something was off, but I didn't know what. So I don't think he was in the right mind, because had he have been in the right mind, I don't think he would have told me a day before my exam. No way.
No, at all. So you went down this, I suppose, I don't want to say rabbit hole. You went down this road of what you call challenging behaviour. When you were in it, did you think, I'm a challenging behaviour child? Or was that in retrospect? You know, what did you think of yourself at the time?
I just thought I was living life. Like I wasn't challenging at all. I thought everybody else was the problem but me. Typical teenager mindset. My mum would say something, no, you've got it wrong, you're stubborn. My nan would try to speak to me, no, all my mum's friends would jump in and try and rein me in. I'm like, all of you, like, you just lost. That was my genuine...
They're not woke.
That was my genuine mindset. And it's only till I was a little bit older that I was like, wow, like, me and my mum can have conversations now about some of those challenging times. And she was like, yeah, Pud, you were a handful. And I can be like, yeah, I know.
What were some of the emotions that you had towards him?
I think a lot of disappointment. Like there was no room in there for sympathy at all with me. I'm just like, that is just a no-go. And for the amount of years that he's allowed it to carry on, I'm just like, I can't resonate with that. Do you know what I mean? So lots of disappointment. And that's why even to this day, our relationship has never been able to repair to what it was when I was about 25 now. So you're definitely addicted to something else before you're addicted to the substance. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think the problem starts with the substance you're taking. I think there's something that's happened in your life before that point that either you're running from or trying to get to, or something before the substance. So it's made me understand it on a deeper level, but I think that's about it really.
Can you find that empathy now for your dad? Or I know you said it's not the same, because obviously you're a lot older than 7 now, but can you find that space inside yourself to...
I think I can find the space for what the addiction has done, if that makes sense, but I can't find the space for him finding the addiction, if that makes sense. So the damage that the addiction has done to his life, I can resonate with that part, because I'm like, that no one should have to experience losing family and not having a relationship with your eldest child, different things like that. But I think there's a level of accountability that is really, really important for me, and everybody has to be accountable for their actions, regardless of how you got on the journey. You could decide to take yourself off. So
looking back at that period where he wasn't there, what did you miss?
That's a really good question. I think just a fatherly figure. My mom's brilliant, but there's certain things that have to be taught by your dad. Same with my brother as well. I see it with my brother, and he's 18 now. And there's certain things I'll see in my brother that I'm like, if you had a present dad, that wouldn't happen like that. And I think it's very different for both of us because obviously he's male, I'm female. For me, it was not having that male figure. So when I was in my teens, I was seeking love in the wrong places. So it's why I'm so able to speak on it so poignantly now, because I'm like, I've seen it, I've been there, I've got all the t-shirts.
And that's I think that's where I'm going with this, because when I saw a video of you talking about sex, very like unapologetic, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to check tomorrow to see if she puts up a new post, because is she alive? Because the community that you know, your background and everything, it can be quite averse to that transparency.
That's right.
But I was so inspired and just taken back by your honesty, especially as a young woman, talking about sex, intimacy, relationships. Sticking on the timeline of you being about 16, 17 now, you know what's been going on, and you, as you said, a bit unstable. What were relationships like with the opposite sex at that point?
For me, I'd always been taught to have lots of self-respect. Like my mum drummed that into me probably from when she pushed me out. Self-respect. So that was just culture in our family. But speaking about topics like you said, sex, intimacy, all those things weren't normal. It was kind of just like, you're supposed to just understand what happens. You're supposed to just kind of get it together. And at 16, obviously, I just had the breakdown in relationship with my dad. So I found comfort in a boyfriend. And in my family, it was like, sin, biggest sin. Oh my gosh, what has happened? Boys. Had boys coming to knock the door for me, and it was like, don't knock this door, you shouldn't be. And I was just like, this is a lot, like, why is this even a thing? But at the time I could see that, now I could see that my mum was protecting me from, she could potentially see you are just not in a space to be entertaining any relationship.
So you finished college now? You're about, what, 18?
18, yeah.
And where's dance at this point?
So I started a stage school, I think, when I was 13. And I stayed there right up until I was 17. And I was assistant teaching the younger generation and stuff like that. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I could feel that. I was kind of just I felt stagnant with dance. Like, what am I doing here? Yeah, I'm teaching the younger generation, but I'm not being put forward for some of these massive opportunities that I can see my white counterparts being put forward for, even at the age of 17. So I remember going to this conference called Midnight Oil, and I think it was my mum that made me apply, actually. They put out an ad saying, we're looking for dancers that will be at this conference. And she was like, I've just seen an ad for Midnight Oil, man, I feel like you should do it. And I was like, well, what is it? Like, what is it? Proper dance? I kept saying, is it proper dance? Are we actually dancing? So she was like, applications have closed, but I'm going to put you forward anyway. It's a church conference. And I heard church and I went, oh, really? Like, long skirt? No, mum. I was like, flags. I was like, that's not me. Please don't sign me up. Anyway, she must have put an application for me in and didn't tell me. Dropped me off at the audition one day and was like, go on, you've got this. When God opens a door for you, best believe you'll walk through. And at the time I was like, whatever, man. Like, just couldn't relate. Anyway, she dropped me off to this audition, totally smashed the audition. Everyone was in the room like she could actually dance. It wasn't no flag business. Like, I was wanting to do some proper choreography. So I got the opportunity, danced at the conference, and the conference like changed my life. It was 2 days, and it's the first time I'd really danced in like the presence of God. And I left there and was like, I'm getting baptized next week. Like,
what? So you've gone from, hold on. You're in the car. Oh God, I'm not doing this. And the long skirt version. To I'm going to get baptized
the week after.
The week after.
Yeah.
Did you actually know what that was, or did you?
No, I'd seen baptisms before. I'd watched my mom get baptized, my auntie. I'd been in and out of church. Grew up in church, but not really been in it. But I knew at that conference I needed to give my life to God, and I had a week to do it.
Wow.
It changed my life that rapidly. Like, big up Seth Pinnock and the Midnight Oil team, because even now I would go back to that night as being so life-changing for me. Like, in the space of a couple of hours, like...
What was it in that moment that you felt? Because you've talked about absence, seeking, needing stability, a lack of peace.
Yeah.
What was it in that moment, dancing, that something just switched on for you?
I think it was the sense of freedom and joy. Like, I'd never had joy come over me like that before. And that was God. And I'd never felt it before dancing. I'd always perform, but this was different because I was no longer performing. I was ministering. Big difference. Yeah.
Both you and your mum, whenever I see you, smiles up to you.
Really?
And I'm always thinking, how did they do that? I run a business
and
it's not going like this. But you look like you've got such a close relationship.
Yeah, no, we have.
And she still calls you Pud.
Yeah, I know. She's my best friend. Like, we are best friends. And I think she will say I'm her best friend as well, to a certain extent, when she has to be like, know your place. So it's like, we're best friends, you're my business partner, you're all of these things, but you're still my mum. So we have to wear so many different hats.
How do you find that balance though? Because, you know, does it cross over sometimes?
Yeah,
in terms, especially as business partners?
Yeah, because I don't switch off. So I am always thinking about business. And she has to say to me sometimes, we're not at Eloquent, like, I'm just your mum. Stop now. Or she won't respond to me and I'm like, did you get my message? What do you think of the idea? And she's like, I seen your message but I've shut off. And I'm like, you mean you shut off? Like, but I've had to learn, come evening times, she don't operate, but I am alive in the evening.
Oh, wow.
And she is not available in the day.
Really?
So it's been really funny but challenging trying to find out where we both fit. And we've had to just assign certain days to just do thrash out stuff,
So how do you assign mum and daughter time? How do you find that space?
Yeah.
And what happens in that space?
I feel like mum and daughter time always becomes a business meeting.
Oh, goodness.
So now we have to be really strict that we're going to go for a meal and we're not going to talk about anything to do with Eloquent, even though it's really hard because I'm usually the one like, did you see that email? And but I think it's just discipline. Like, my mum seems to have that discipline. I'm still learning. I remember me and my mum sitting around the breakfast bar in her house, and I was like, I really would love to run a dance school when I'm older. And what happened was we had decided that me and, was it 3 friends? Me and 2 friends were going to set up like a dance group and just perform at church events and weddings and conferences or whatever. So I was like, Mum, I think we should do it and get flyers and go for it. She was like, yeah, I think you should. What would you call it? And I was like, I'm not sure. And she was like, okay, let me pray on it and sit on it and something will come to me. So I was like, okay, nothing's come to me when we linked up the next day. And she was like, I've had Eloquent drop in my spirit. And I was like, Eloquent, what does that mean? So we searched it up. And it's like bold, tenacious, all of these things. And we were like, okay, yeah, that is definitely me. Let's run with it. So we called this group Eloquent Dance. And it was literally just me and my friend at the time that had set up these terrible flyers, went to this conference and started handing them out and saying, oh, look, we're available to perform at events. I think we got 1 booking, travelled all the way to Leeds, did it. And people were like, wow, they're really flexible. But I didn't realise what we were doing at the time. So I think 2 months in, we were like, I really want to set up a dance class. Like, I want to set up a dance class and just see what happens. So me and my mum went to the church that we were at and asked if we could set up a class with the people at the church. And they were kind of like, yeah, but you won't be able to call it Eloquent. It's got to be the church, then the dance group name afterwards. And I was like, I don't really like that idea. Like, it's called Eloquent, like that's what's dropped. Not in my spirit, but in my mom's spirit. That's what we want to call it. So in the end, they didn't give us the space. And we were sitting, waiting, thinking, should we wait for the church? In the end, we were like, scrap this. Let's just hire a hall. So hired a hall, put out some flyers, and just didn't really know what to expect. Had like 12 dancers maybe show up to the first session, and I was like, buzzing, 12 dancers, yeah, this is it, I've made it. Proper buzzing. In the space of a year, it probably grew to like 40. Then it went to like 50, then 60, then 70, then...
In 1 year?
as the years went on, progressively. Now we're in our 7th year and it's like over 100 students. And I never imagined that us saying, we're going to call it Eloquent, it's going to dance at events, now it's a class, now it's from a class into a company, now it's a school, now it's established, now you got to get it right. And when we launched Eloquent, I was 17. I was just about to go and do my A-levels. So I was kind of just having fun. Didn't really have a big vision for this thing.
Yeah.
And it was only into probably was in our 4th or 5th year. And I was like, this is something. Like, I'm going places and people are like, there's the dancing lady, there's the girl that runs Eloquent. You do Eloquent? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Didn't even grasp that Eloquent is becoming a movement that you'd never anticipated for. Like, God didn't show me this fine print part. I thought we were just going to do performances, events. So it kind of took off in front of our eyes. And then once I was mature enough to latch on to what I'd been given, then I was like, right, let's go.
By the time this goes out, you either might just be getting married or already be married.
That's really exciting.
Because you're getting married this summer.
Yeah.
So having that, I suppose, in the near future, and looking in the distance, the rear view mirror, I suppose, how different are the two scenarios? You've now got a stable man in your life and going forward into marriage after coming out of that absent space. How difficult, or was it challenging at all to develop that relationship? Really, really challenging.
And it took me to, I remember, I think I'd known Omar for ages. We'd always been friends first. So he's been like my Cody, like, yo, that's bro, from time. So when we got together, it just felt normal because it was just friends really taking the relationship to the next level. But I remember, I think we were about 21 and something happened in the relationship and I was really, really angry at him. And he was like, I think we should just go and see, there's this drop-in counselling thing at my church. Like, let's just go. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll go. But she's only going to get mad at you because of what you did. So we've gone to this meeting, unwrapped everything to this counsellor, and she turned around and she said to me, I need to see you in a separate session. And I was like, me? Like, it's him, he's done everything wrong. And she was like, no, it's actually you that I need to see in a separate session. Oh my, you're good to go. And I was so vexed then. I was like, hold on, I brought him here for him to get telling off, and now I'm having a session. But it was good because it made me see my errors. Right. Like and I think we do this in relationships. We're so quick to be like, what have you not done? Or what have you done? And we don't start with, what have I not done or what did I do? So that self-reflection has been big for me because I'd always be quick to point fingers. And I think that stems from my dad, because it was always his fault. I couldn't see anything wrong with my approach or how I was taking it until I got into a relationship and was like, I got work to do.
Well, this is the big thing because they talk about relationships of work, their effort. And you know, 24 now, 25? 25. Still quite young to be getting married. How did you know that this is it? This is what I wanted. This is what I want. I'm ready for this now.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question. I think I'd always, once I got baptized, I was on it. My next partner is, I'm going to work towards marriage because I just couldn't see the point in it otherwise. What was the point in investing into a relationship and not discussing the end goal? So that was my first thing. When me and Omar started to get serious, I was like, let's talk about where you want to be in the future to see if it aligns. If it doesn't align, then let's wrap it up because I don't want to waste my time.
But the confidence you have to say that, because even I know women clean into their 40s, 50s, and still not having the confidence to say or have those conversations with their partner about what they want for the future. And then the relationship doesn't last. It's kind of like, do you feel like you have to kind of be in that all or nothing space where you're prepared to walk away?
I think so. I think, and that comes from self-worth as well. I think you have to be confident in yourself to make those bold statements, because a lot of people are afraid to be alone. So they won't be confident enough to say, if our end goals are not meeting, I'm out, or I'm not ready yet, or you're not ready yet. Lots of, not just women, lots of men also are afraid to be by themselves. And that's because they're not whole here first. Yeah. And I say it a lot, you're quick to get into relationships, but make sure you are a whole piece of pizza first. Not half, because 2 halves for me in a relationship don't make one. It's a solid half still. And the maths to that doesn't make sense, but if we're both whole, then it makes sense, because I'm not looking for my partner to make me happy. And that's the difference. Lots of people jump into relationships, I'm expecting you to make me happy. This should bring me joy, and no, you should bring that to yourself. And once you get that part right, then you can add to the relationship, because what are you bringing to the relationship if you're coming half?
You both spoke about your journey of celibacy.
Yeah.
And you had been quite open in that, you know, you weren't a virgin before you got together. And you spoke about this celibacy journey. You've been together for how long?
If he's watching, gosh, he's going to kill me. 7 years now.
7 years.
Yeah.
Now, some people would say that is a prison sentence.
It is.
To remain celibate. What? Because we talk about values aligning and stuff. How have you done this? Like, what? Especially as a young person, what? Romanah, what's going on?
It's been the biggest challenge, I would say that first. Biggest challenge, but it's something that I've always been 100 with. Like, the moment I got baptized, I said to myself, I'm going to respect my body in such a way that I'm going to wait. And I said it, not realising that what I was really saying. But I can't explain to you the clarity and the... it's really unbelievable what celibacy has done in our relationship and in both of our lives individually. Like the way, the obedience that it has given us in our character, just in the woman that I'm becoming, the man that Omar's becoming, crazy amounts of obedience and blessings. And I just think that it's really difficult. I'm not advising everyone to go and do it, because I know it's not the easiest thing in the world. However, it gives you a definite sense of discipline, obedience, and allowing you to understand love before the intimacy comes into play, which a lot of people do backwards. I'm going to sleep with you first and become infatuated by you, and then I'm going to think that infatuation is love, and it's not. It's lust. And I think I wrote about it in my book, like, you've become infatuated by what you are seeing physically and enjoying physically. And now you think you're in love. 5 years down the line, you're probably going to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, this man does nothing for my spiritual needs, my emotional needs, mentally, but physically, I'm feeling so euphoria that I think it's love. And that's something that we've been able to not do. So I've been able to love you first without stepping into the physical realm. So the physical realm is only going to heighten what's the solid foundation that's already in place. So January 2020, you wrote Dear Future Self, and I described it earlier as a love letter to women of any age, because I think that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can read that book and say, I see me in this, I can take this away, and the transparency, as real. You know, it's very. What made you want to take all of this and put it on paper? I think for me, I just know I needed to write something that I needed when I was younger. If I had that book, I think I wouldn't have made so many stupid decisions, or I would have been able to avoid some decisions because I would have had that counsel and that mentoring. So it was me just throwing loads of gems into a book and saying that there's your handbook. Because I was having girls come to me constantly, man, what about this, and what about celibacy, and what about relationships, what about identity, what about relationships with your parents and how that differs, love versus lust. I'm trying to remember all the chapters. And I just got sick of repeating myself. Like, I was literally weekly, people messaging me on Instagram or at dance, at conferences, asking the same questions. I was like, this is getting silly. I'm going to put it in a book. So now when people ask, I'm like, chapter 7, you know. Refer to page 10. So yeah, it was needed.
Have many of your young girls, have they read the book? Have they come back and spoken to you about it?
Those that are readers. Right. All of them came to the launch, but not all of them are readers. All of them came, yes, Team On. Some of them went home and didn't even open it. But I was like, you bought it, so thanks, royalties. But not all of them are readers, and I get that. So it was about different content, which is why sometimes I'll jump on and do video. Because those that I can't reach with the reading, I'll get in a 60-second video. And then they'll message me, I seen your video about this, can I learn a bit more? You've got the book, when you was at the launch. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to have to read that chapter now. Yeah. But yeah, it's good because I just get to signpost people back to the book constantly. Yeah.
So you are now a multi-award winning, multi-business owner, author, dancer, choreographer, mentor, teacher. Have I forgotten anything? And still all at the wonderful age of 25.
Yeah.
Romanah, what's left? What are you going?
I feel like I'm just getting started. That's the crazy thing. Like, a lot of people say what you say. You're only 25. This is crazy. And I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm just getting started. For me, I'm just kind of, I would say in the last year, I've really learned what it means to be an entrepreneur. Before that, I was winging it, man. I was just trying a thing, but now I feel like I'm really starting to understand how to run a business, how to scale it, not just launch it, because I think that's really different.
Yeah.
Lots of people launch businesses and say, yeah, I'm a CEO, and it's like, you're not though. Like, it's so different. There's so many different stages to opening a company, to seeing it become profitable and successful. So now I feel like I'm coming into...
This show's called The Social Corner, as you know, and it really is about understanding how people like yourselves have carved out their social space there and their place of impact, making a difference. What would you describe as your social corner?
That's a good question. So many things. I feel because I do so much. Like, I'd always thought I'd go into one thing and really be good at it, but now I've realised I want to do lots of different things, and that was why the 9-to-5 job wasn't working for me, because I needed to be able to jump into dance and then jump into speaking and into writing and then just be everywhere. But I think for me, I definitely am passionate about what I do, and I think I'd really advocate for being passionate about what your life represents, being purposeful as well. Let it link back to a higher purpose. What's the bigger reason for why you do what you do? And then also making it be worthwhile and really productive. So
How comfortable are you with being referred to as a role model?
I don't really mind it. I'm all right with it now. I think for me, being a role model is leading, modeling it, experience, not talking about it. Like, talk for me is dead if you're not doing it. So I always try to talk about what I've already done or what I'm doing. If I'm not there yet, I don't speak on it, because I just think it's hypocritical. What
do you see in your future? What are you hoping for?
I want to do so many things. I definitely want to open a performing arts college. So that's on my list to do next. Just because I've seen loads of colleges launch in the Midlands and none of them are black owned. I want to change that. So
that's something you're quite passionate about, isn't it? Like black business and black ownership. Where's that come from? Why? I suppose not why, but what has kind of fueled that for you?
I think the more I learn about my histories, the more I'm fueled to do more. Like, when you look at people like Martin Luther King, Oprah Winfrey, just these great Rosa Parks, how they impacted change, we cannot afford to do any less. Because for me, I just feel like we're standing on such great shoulders. They literally carved the path for us to just live and not be totally ridiculed by racism. Racism still exists, very much so, but we've got opportunities to be in rooms be in spaces and impact change. And I just think that if you're not doing everything you can to be the best version of yourself, then you're lazy.
You're lazy. Okay. What do you think might be some of the barriers to somebody being the best version of themselves? Apart from laziness.
Environment.
Okay.
Yeah, environment and the atmosphere. Who is speaking into and over your life and who's making these things seem possible. Like for me to say I'm going to open a performing arts college, lots of people will be like, good luck. But because of the environment that I put myself in, the people around me are like, yeah, man, do you think you'll do it? Even opening Eloquent Art Centre, I test out my environments and the different friendship circles and family that I'm around, and I'll speak my dreams and see who kills it. The first person to kill it is the first person I'm distancing from. Because I know the longer you're in my space, the longer it's going to take me to get to that goal. So if I'm thinking about I want to potentially launch my next book in October, I'm just speaking it in different circles and I'm watching who's going, I'm doing this, and me to be motivated by what they're doing. If I'm not feeling that energy, or people are like, oh, you can try and open an art centre in Birmingham, or it might not be possible, I pick up that energy and I'm gone.
Yeah. Your young people, what do you want to see for them in the future?
Financial stability.
Okay.
That's a big thing for me. Like I'm always teaching on it after dance class, get your phones out, we're going to talk about money. And everyone's like, money. But financial stability, wealth, really, really passionate about that, because we haven't come from a space where we've been able to access wealth. It's not about building wealth. We genuinely cannot get into those spaces to access wealth because we're Black. So because of that, I'm super passionate about teaching young people how to have multiple baskets, multiple gifts and talents, utilize them all, and don't let anything go to waste. Don't let anything God has given you go to waste. I'm always banging on about it, and sometimes they're like, come on, say it again. But I know when that light bulb switches on, they're going to be killing it in their purpose. And for me, not all of them will be dancers. Like, I know that. Not all of you are going to be professional dancers, and I actually don't want you to be. I just want you to be exactly what God has called you to be, I think.
And you're writing your second book?
Yeah.
In the process of writing your second book. What's this one about?
This one's called Leap of Faith, actually. Just weirdly speaking about taking risks. And it's about my journey of coming into dance and not having a safe space. And finding a safe environment, and then going on to launch a dance company and do lots of amazing, go abroad and do whatever. So it's about taking risks and having faith. And on that note, just my final question really is going back to your social corner. How would you like to see evolve in the next 10 years? What would you like to see happen in the space that you're trying to impact in the next 10 years? I definitely want to go global. So I've always said that, like, I don't want to be bound to the UK. I want to have a UK base, but I want to be global, because I just think there's so much that we can do across the world. Why should we limit ourselves to one space? I want to impact more people across the world, and develop a legacy and have other young people take the baton and do greater things than I'm doing. It's all about legacy and purpose for me. So if at any point I'm not here, I'd be very safe with the legacy that I've left, I think.
I like that. We're going to end there. Romanah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you.
And cut.